Hey guys, welcome back to the Fairway Performance podcast. Today, guest interview. I'm really excited. We've just met online now. We've been having a bit of a chat via Instagram for a while, but we've finally lined up a time where we can jump on. And Toby is the guest name. He's a golf coach, an online golf coach and in-person golf coach down at a course just south of where I live in Sydney here in New South Wales. And did you want to give us a quick intro to who you are, Toby, and let us know what you do?
Thanks for having me on, Sean. I appreciate it, brother. It's good to be on the other side, mate. So I'm a golf coach. Obviously, I live 2 hours south of Sydney. I work with tour professionals all the way through to the beginner golfer. I've got players who play, in India, Asia, LET access, kind of all around the world on the, I guess what you call the mini tours mainly. I coach a lot. I coach a lot online. These days, a lot of my business is driven online, which kind of gives me an opportunity to kind of live overseas at the same time as well. And, I really enjoy the online coaching model. And, what is it about myself? I guess I'm mid-30s, love going to the gym, love taking it easy, love golf, love it all.
Yeah, well, I think for American listeners, you're probably one of the stereotypical Australians, just judging by your lifestyle, live fairly close to the beach where you are, loves the gym and super easygoing. So I think it's like the stereotype for Australians.
Mate, I can, I ride my electric skateboard to the gym in the morning. My beach is only 100 meters from my house. And, I love helping golfers, and I'm really, I was up this morning at, about 5 p.m. We're up doing some training with the 3D motion capture crew from a German-based software thing. So, all that stuff kind of gets me excited. I'm really eager to learning. I don't settle for, I love answers. I'm always asking questions, that type of coach. And yeah, I've just never really settled in my life. I'm always kind of striving and pushing myself. And a lot of it comes through fear, Sean. Like I always want to have the answer for someone. When someone asks me a question, I want to, have done my due diligence, in my training to make sure that I've got an answer for them, because I just definitely think that in this day and age, dude, there is just no excuse for not knowing something. We've got accesses to so much information out there. If you're not learning, there's so much stuff we can learn out there for at a very cheap cost as well as golf coaches. It's incredible.
Yeah, 100%. I think that might form part of your philosophy, potentially. But I really wanted to ask you, and I like to ask this question of golf coaches, but what's your, let's say what's a personal philosophy that you have, and then also one that you have for your work that you do with helping golfers?
My personal philosophy, like in my day-to-day life?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's like working with golfers as well, right? To me, you got to gear it to kind of towards each different type of personality. I'm a bit of 100% kind of go guy. So I'm always searching for balance in my life, right? So that's, I very much for me, like in my day-to-day life, my pain teacher is kind of my stress levels, I guess, in my body, and I can kind of feel it. So yin and yang is, I did a lot of study around Taoism. So that to me is where I like to, try to find balance in that way. I have a lot of yang in my life. If it's like gym, beach, skating, golf, like playing with the kids. So I have to incorporate a lot of balance and I guess a lot of yin, so a lot of meditation into my life to bring myself back down, because my natural way is go. So that's kind of like, balance is just something I've got it bloody tattooed on me, Sean. That's how important it is to me. But that's something to me that's really, really important within my day-to-day life, is finding that balance. But in the golf coaching realm, right, my philosophy around everything is I always work backwards. So for me is that when someone comes to me, so a lot of my students are kind of long-term students where we work with them over, an extended period amount of time, right? Because the golf game's extremely complex. I'm not just your typical kind of in and out golf teacher type of thing. So for me, I always have to sit the student down, because number one, the student doesn't know what they really need, right? So I have to try and help them find what they really need. And what I mean by that is that I work backwards. So the reason you've come to me is because your scoring's not good enough, right? And then why isn't your scoring good enough? So I look through statistical data. So I look through I use a stats and benchmarking app, which has got really good AI tool in it. So why is your stats bad, right? So what's leading us to not scoring our best? And then I'll work into ball flight and strike issues. Potentially could be, like a strike issue in regards to that they're hitting it at the toe, or they're hitting it heavy a lot of time, and their greens in regulation stats showing they're coming up short a lot. And then from there, I go into what I specialize in, which is just swing technique work. So I always work backwards from there. And then once I got to do swing technique stuff, it's, for me, I'm always working around the least invasive approach as possible to get started with. So what can we get for the biggest bang for our buck? Because making a swing change, and everyone must know this, that making a swing change and a permanent swing change is really effing hard. It's really hard to make a permanent change. We can all make a pretty change on the driving range. So for me, about instilling that permanent change. And then so I really work backwards. So I don't open my mouth for the sake of it within a golf lesson. I really try to make sure that each golf lesson, when someone leaves me, that they know exactly what's needed. So that's kind of how I go about my approach.
Yeah, I love it. So what you're saying there is data to inform some decisions, and then obviously using that data and the informed decisions to, correct potentially swing issues which are causing those issues, and then hopefully seeing the data change and making changes from there.
Yeah, and then measuring the change. So, we all, most golf coaches should be using a ball, club and ball tracking device like a GC Quad or a TrackMan. I use a GC Quad, and it's, when you're looking at someone's golf swing, it's what's that data showing me? And then it's my job to try and work out how can I manipulate that data in a positive manner for the least evasive approach. And then we measure it. So then what we do from there is that we do a lot of like benchmarking and testing. So when they come back or when they're importing it into their training schedule, how can they work on this in a controlled environment and make sure that they're actually progressing? Because you need to be able to measure it yourself, that a change is working.
Yeah. And then what, so you mentioned the AI tool and the stats tool that you use. What particular statistics are you looking for? Is there like a set thing that you, if I came to you or, Joe Blow came to you, like you'd measure the exact same thing, and then based on the initial measurement, then you'd go deeper down a certain rabbit hole. But is there a set parameters that you go for?
Oh, it's pretty crazy. We use an app called Drumble Circles, but basically what you want to do is you want to input as much data in there as you can as possible and find out, like, for instance, how best does Sean play golf? So, everyone's golf looks differently. That's what people have got to understand as well. Like everyone's golf looks different. Like, for instance, Brian Harmon's good golf looks different to Rory McIlroy's good golf. So you got to find out what your good golf looks like first, and then how to get there. So I got students around the world where it's nice and simple. But for instance, Gareth, actually from Sydney, and he knows that when he hits 12 greens, he breaks 80. He just knows. He knows. So if he hits 9 greens in regulation, he'll often have 82, 83. But as soon as he hits 12, he has 79. And that's just his data point. Like Jake, one of my students just played in US Amateur. When he has 29 putts, he breaks 70. It's just what happens, right? And that's a very simple one for him to kind of go about his approach. So his training is we have a lot of skill-based stuff that way. So I guess you do have, let's call it red and green flags that kind of pop up when you look at certain things initially, and you go, this is where our biggest room for improvement is in this area. But, from my experience before, I kind of dove deep down this way, was that 9 out of 10 of my students couldn't list their weaknesses to their strengths in the correct order because they don't have the data to prove it. It's just like if someone owns a business and you walked into the shop and said, how's business? And they go, yeah, it's pretty good. This area is weak. And you're like, how do you know? And they're like, oh, it just feels like I don't stack that much. I don't refill it. I'm like, well, do you have any reports? No, I don't keep reports. Oh, you don't keep reports? What do you tell the taxman? No, don't worry about the taxman. So that's kind of like, because the golf game is so complex. And I just found that what you will find is that most people are very good with a 7-iron. from yardages that's called 120 yards to 160 yards is generally a strength amongst most golfers who are keen at getting better because that's what they go to the range and hit.
Mm.
So anyway, that's kind of the rabbit hole, but that's not to say that I don't specialize in the swing technique. Like I coach 10 coaches on how to coach the game, like swing technique stuff. I got a call with one of them today from New Zealand who I help coach golf. But to me, yeah, collecting as much data as we can as possible is really cool. It's really useful to us because yeah, you can revolutionize someone's golf game pretty quickly by looking at their stats.
Yeah, I mean, I love that approach, and it's an approach that I use personally. I've been using Decade
Yep.
because I've had Scott Fawcett on the podcast, so he
Yep.
kindly set me up in there.
Yep.
But that's amazing. Like it's literally using your data to plot your way around a golf course, and it's knowing all your different numbers and how wide you have certain misses and whatnot. So very stats based and analytical based. And then from there, if I'm missing lots of greens, but I'm hitting lots of fairways, then it means I need to practice from 7-iron to wedge. If I'm hitting lots of greens and still shooting close to 80 or over 80, then obviously I need to do some chipping and putting.
Yeah.
So it's it's very informative as to what I need to work on. And then for me, knowing all those things, I've got my little Garmin R10 that I set up in the backyard that everyone sees me, doing all the videos on Instagram in the backyard in the little turf area. Or I've got a golf course. I'm a member at Concord, so I can go up and do some chipping and putting and hitting in the nets and stuff. So, it's resonating very well with me, what you're saying there.
And I love that. But what I also do as well is that all my students have a training plan, right? So it's well, when I mean all of them, I make it up to them to set it. I have ones that I have like a 16-page PDF document full of skills and stuff and how to record your training because let's face it, right? So people listening to this, they might have training plans at the gym. They go to the gym and, you've written them up a plan. And what I find the golfer becomes too reactive. So they're like, oh, I had a really bad putting day on Saturday. So I'm going to go to the putting green all week this week and just putt. When I get the opportunity to, I'm going to watch all putting YouTube videos. I'm going to try and get really good at putting. Where that to me, right, is like someone going into the gym and saying, oh, it was a weak chest day today, so I'm just going to focus on doing chest exercises all week. And it's like, well, that's not how we're getting. So to me, I try not to be too reactive. It's like, okay, great. Jake, my student in the States who plays, great golf. Like he hasn't shot over 70 now for like 12 rounds. There's some crazy streak going on. It's like when his putting's poor, we don't react and just go practice putting. We have our putting routine. We have our whole weekly training plan that he works through. And we don't have to, like I said to him, do you want to putt like Aaron Baddeley tomorrow? Or if I told you could putt like Aaron Baddeley in a year? It's like, oh, I'll putt like Aaron Baddeley in a year. I'll take that. I'm like, great. Well, then, so let's keep working through our training plan and we just go through our skills-based stuff to make sure that everything is evolving at the same time. And it sounds complex, but it's not because I've got recreational golfers who I coach all around the world who are working through the same 3-day kind of training cycle, but it might not be on a Monday. It might not be like your kind of your gym bro breakdown, chest Mondays, back Thursdays, whatever. It's kind of just like, these are my 3 training days I've got, and these cover everything I can do. Long iron work, mid iron work, short game work, putting work, driving work, chipping and putting skills. And then from there, when they get to the driving range, I just make sure, or they get to the golf course, that they just cycle through those 3 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hitting it. Yeah, they're hitting everything, so yeah.
And then, right, Sean goes and plays, and Sean goes, oh, hang on. My putting's been letting me down the last 3 rounds. I can see here through my data, my data entry. Well, then let's maybe massage the training plan a little bit. Let's just maybe put a bit more putting skills stuff in there. Let's do a little bit of this. So,
yeah.
It's kind of how
yeah, 100% makes sense. I love that there's a systematic approach and not reactive, like you're saying there. So you mentioned you love to coach swing mechanics.
Yeah.
What are some fundamentals in swing mechanics, or let's start from like the basics that you'd work with someone like poor contact or whatever, all the way up to some more finer skills that you're potentially working with like high level players on.
would you say certain stuff like potentially like checkpoints within the golf swing that I kind of look for, or?
Well, so I've seen on your Insta you talk about P1 to, is it P5?
P10. Yeah, so I use
P10. There you go. That's
yeah,
how
so
much I know about it.
that's okay. So P1 to P10 is just a way that we can what would you call it? Pinpoint certain positions in the golf swing. So it's a good way so P1 is setup, and then you go P2 is club shaft level to the ground, and then P3 is lead arm level to the ground, and then P4 is top of the backswing, and then just works the other way around. Right? So P5 is lead arm level to the ground, the downswing. So when you're when I'm approaching a golf swing, right? So let's say, for instance, I'm looking at a ball flight and strike issue. So I've read the data. I've kind of seen down the TrackMan or the GC quad that comes out that, we're hitting it 2 inches behind the ball and out of the toe, right? Whatever it is. I backtrack to what does impact look like? So we look at impact, which is P7. Okay, great. I can see there that their center of mass, say being their sternum, is too far behind the golf ball, which is causing them to be too far behind the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then
I'll work behind the ball,
yeah, so then I'll go back to the setup position and go, is there something here that the person is creating wrong here that is causing this issue? That's where you always go to first. You always go to setup. I was talking to one of my coaches today in the States. We hit fades and draws by just adjusting our setup position. So if you can do that from setup, then you can fix someone's golf swing from setup. So you try and go to setup to try and get something done for free to improve impact condition. And then from there, I always work backwards. So I'll work out the delivery position, before contact. So that's called P6. So just before entry into the golf ball. And then we'll work backwards to kind of see where something potentially is letting us down to what position we could move. But I always start at setup and kind of work from there. So impact, setup, and then work backwards through the swing.
Yeah, okay. And do you find with certain levels of amateur, and even professionals, like they might have these same mistakes as well, but can you like group them? So one thing, just to give some more context to the question, is when I work with golfers and I do a screening with them, I find that those who have very good dissociation, so they can move their lower body in out of sync with their upper body, like they can keep their upper body still, they can move their lower body, and then they can do vice versa. So they have very good feel and coordination within their body. They can make a lot better contact with the ball, and obviously shoot lower scores because they are just more coordinated and whatever else. But do you find certain segments, like say a 0 to 5 handicapper, they hit maybe X amount of shots fat or thin or whatever, or they're mainly their bad shot is this, or someone who's off like 10 to 20 handicap, they generally chunk it and they hit their irons short of greens, or
I get where you're kind of getting at it with there. And when you also talk about there the disassociation between lower body and upper body, and you see that better with better players, you could also just put that down to better athletes as well, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for instance, when you're working with an athlete from any sporting background, so I'm lucky enough to coach people, have coached people from the Australian cricket team and, NRL players and all these types of, professional surfers like Sally Gibbons, all these types of people who I get to coach. Their body pivots are always really good, Sean. Like they move their body really well. So they tilt really, really well, but they might struggle a little bit in their club and arm structure. But to kind of pigeonhole good players and bad players, or sometimes say, the higher player and the lower player is definitely the ability to control low point, right? But what I mean by that is that, where they can deliver the club at the right time, right? So you'll see the biggest difference between a good player and a bad player. It's not so much curvature, but it's more about contact issue, if you know what I mean. And then that will stem back from a lot of technical types of issues. But the only time I will but pigeonhole certain people is that you have fade bias golfers and draw bias golfers. So if you think about it this way, right? If you hit a slice forehand in tennis and a top spinning forehand in tennis, right? So people understand that, right? The way the racket's moving and the way the ball moves. We've all watched a bit of tennis, right? If you actually look at that in a bit more detail, they are two completely different body composition positions at the point of time at strike, and their racket is moving in a completely different manner. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, one's moving down and the other's moving up. So that's the opposite directions.
Exactly. And you'll find that the slice person may be more open, the shoulder's a little bit differently rotated and their body's differently positioned towards their target line. And that's the same thing for me in the golf swing with a draw bias and a fade bias player. So, for instance, you have a look at Victor Hovland versus Xander Schauffele yesterday in the Tour Championship final, right?
Yeah.
Xander Schauffele is very much a draw bias type of golf swing, and everything that Victor Hovland does is pretty fade bias within his golf swing. So those guys are all doing certain things on the other side of the parameter. So if you have a linear line, one side being draw bias, one side being fade bias, they're two separate types of golf swings. So when you're dealing with someone or a student, for a student listening to this who is looking to manipulate their pattern and move it in a different direction, well, Rory McIlroy has a very draw bias golf swing. So if you are a real fader and a slicer, then potentially you should be looking at some of the stuff that Rory McIlroy does, a few little things that you might be able to take out and put into your golf swing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I hope it does. I can't really answer you exactly there, but the difference between a good player and a bad player is the good player has the ability to deliver their club in the right position at the right time.
Yeah, so it all comes back to contact and what'd you say, low point?
Low point. Yeah, so low point is where the club's at its lowest point throughout the golf swing.
Yeah, which should be slightly in front of the ball.
A good golfer in front of the golf ball, yes, and a poorer golfer should be more behind the ball. It will be generally, and when people hit tops, Sean, or they fat the ball, it's generally the same thing because their low point. Just think about a hula hoop is behind the ball. So a fat shot sometimes might enter into the ground, or a top shot they might hit just start rising and hit the top of the ball through that area there. So it's definitely you can't completely pigeonhole the differences between, because if you have a look at we might see a poor characteristic amongst recreational golfers is the inability to keep their balance, and you take a look at Scotty Scheffler, you know what I mean? So dancing around a little bit and probably the best ball striker of our generation. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I do have preferences, Sean, within the golf swing when I do coach, definitely.
Okay. Did you want to talk about some of those then?
Yeah. So we can talk about that. So I have a couple of my preferences are a strong to neutral grip. That's kind of where it's neutral to strong type of grip. So people, listening to this is that when people see different wrist mechanics at the top of the backswing, they might see like a Colin Morikawa or a Dustin Johnson, these types of guys that have a bowed left wrist, but their left wrist at P1, start of the golf swing, is in quite a weak position. You know what I mean? So it allows their wrist to move into a flex position, bowed, or whatever you want to call it. So for me, for the recreational golfer listening to this, that when you look down, I like to see 2 to 3 knuckles on the top hand. That to me helps me coach within my preferences and my parameters of what I know works. So from there, that allows the wrist to move quite well in a radial deviation, which is the thumbs moving up and down like using a hammer.
Yep.
So that's kind of one of my start points for me is that, and the reason why I like that, because I coach within some sort of a system, is that I know the biomechanics of the wrist and the elbow and the shoulder that can react towards that grip. So that helps me coach to my full potential. If someone's got a weak top hand grip and they are an elite ball striker, it's definitely got more of its challenges for me when I'm coaching.
Yeah, okay. And then what stems from that? So that's one of them, the strong grip there. Yeah. What are some other preferences that fit within this system?
Yeah, so the one that kind of for me is tilts. So tilting and turning within the golf swing of the body pivot. So to go away from the arms and club structure, talk about just what the body is doing. So it's called the torso. And for me, when looking from down the line, I like to see the shoulders turn at a 90 degree, or tilt and turn at a 90 degree plane. So essentially, if you had the ability to keep your head within a circle, if you drew it on an analysis tool, and your head was to stay neutral, and you can turn and tilt your shoulders at 90 degrees, which means that you're tilting on the plane, that is definitely one of my preferences within a golf swing. It does change a little bit when you get into the longer clubs because the club's longer and you're standing up taller. And with a good left-hand grip, as funny as it seems, that's easy to do. So
yeah, that's why it fits into the system.
Yeah.
And
I guess when I say system, it's just like what I know works and how I coach. Like I don't coach what I don't know. Now, what I mean by that is that, let's say John Rahm and Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, 3 different types of golf swings, right? None of them are wrong. None of them are right. Like none of them are wrong. Like they've all elite of the elite players. But to think that that one individual person, it takes a team to work with those guys. If that makes sense to you. So
yeah, and they obviously have done a very deep dive into what's working for them and why their low point is just in front of the ball, and they just absolutely flush it. So
and
a little different to most.
And I talk to all my top end coaches and friends about this. Right, is that it's irresponsible of a coach to take on a player. They go, oh yeah, I can help you, I can fix you. Like we can all help each other, but you got to understand if you're the right person for the job as well. You know what I mean? So you can't just take someone on.
Toolkit's the right toolkit.
Yeah, exactly. That you can kind of work within that person, Yeah. And I guess, one of my last little things that I like to see is that I measure the center of mass movement a lot from the face on picture. So for people listening to this, is the caddy view. So, to me, that where your mass is present at certain aspects of the golf swing, A, can help you with speed, and B, help you with low point control and club face conditions for the impact area. And some simple ways for people to measure this who are listening to this to try and measure your mass movement is from the face on camera angle, from caddy view, from a very nice camera angle, and make sure that phone and everything is level, that when you're filming, when you get to the top of the backswing, so we call that P4 in the golf instructional world, when you get to the top of the backswing, the line there, if you draw a line up through the ball, where is that positioned relative to your body? So we might find for someone who is hanging back on the back foot too much, you might see that ball is too far outside their left ear. Does that make sense to you? So there's too much mass behind the ball.
Yeah. So essentially, you've swayed back a little bit, or your center of mass has moved back behind the ball. Yeah.
Too much off the ball, and we're allowed to move off the ball. You've just got to get back in time. Yeah. So that's what the fast guys do really well, right? So someone like if you look at the 3D or the tracing numbers, or the 3D plate numbers of, say, a long driver like a Seb Tudell, friend of mine, Australian long driver, fastest guy in the world, right? He moves his mass off really quickly. So when his club shaft is level to the ground in the backswing, he's at like 85% on his right foot already, trail foot. But when he gets to left arm level to the ground in the backswing, so when his left arm is level to the ground in the backswing, so it's moved from just a little bit more, he's already starting to get back towards the flat. So there's more weight going back towards his left side.
Yeah, so he's really loading it at the start to get the momentum and everything moving back. Yeah, and then before he gets to the top of the backswing, he's already starting to plant the front foot.
Mate, after the club gets to level to the ground and the way back, the takeaway, the transition's already starting to move towards the lead side.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty crazy. With a recreational golfer, we will barely see much mass movement to there, and left arm level to the ground, we'll see a lot more moved. But,
yeah.
So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, to kind of give you a little bit of insight into center of mass movement, right, for people listening, is when you are swinging your golf club, right, and you get to left arm, say your lead arm, so for the right-handed golfer, we'll just call it the left arm. When it gets to level to the ground in the backswing, so horizontal with the ground, that is when you should be the furthest away from the ball in your golf swing. Once you get to the top of the backswing, you've actually already started to shift back towards the flag. Does that make sense to you, Sean?
Yeah, 100%. So we're trying to turn our belt buckle, or the
Mass.
the thing that I have in mind is we're moving more towards our left leg again to initiate the downswing, which is like the X factor stretch they call it with Rory, and you're trying to start turning your belt buckle towards the target, and everything will follow from there.
Yeah,
that's how I see it anyway.
It's nearly towards a target. Don't get me wrong, Rory has a lot of X factor, but when you get him, when you measure him, he actually isn't opening up from the top of the backswing. He's drifting. He's moving his lower body towards what we call recentering. So let's just use these numbers, right? Left arm level to the ground in the backswing. Rory is 65% of weight on his right side.
Yeah,
when he gets to on his trail leg. When he gets to the top of the backswing, he's about 53% on the lead side. Where what the recreational golfer has the concept of is that when they get to the top of the backswing, they think that's just the full loading phase to there. So then they get stuck on that trail side. And then from there, that's where we start to see things get out of sync.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you see lots of
that picture will make a lot of sense to people.
Yes, and it's what I call the drift, or what some technical kind of guys have called the recentering, but it's definitely one of the biggest things that we see amongst the best golfers and the not so good golfers. And what that helps it do is let's just talk about the low point. It helps move the low point further forward. So if you're backing on that right foot too much, at the top of your backswing, you can't really get forward. So you need that drift back towards the flag.
Yeah, cool. And for other parts or other reasons, we need that drift towards the flag to provide a stable base on that lead leg to then rotate around.
100%.
Yeah, obviously we need a lot of strength in that lead leg because it's going to start taking. What would you say some of the best golfers, how much weight as a percentage is in the lead leg when they get close to impact, or like you said, was it P6 is before impact and then P7?
Yeah. So P6 is delivery and then P7 is impact. But okay, so all right, so P5 coming into the golf swing, which is left arm level to the ground in the downswing, right?
Yeah.
Is when the golfer is at their heaviest. So what I mean by that is that when you get to the top of your backswing, you're actually getting a little bit lighter because you're getting higher. And then when they transition into left arm level to the ground in the downswing, which is P5, you're at your heaviest, right? And this is where you'll see guys starting to unload. So this is where you'll see vertical forces and, long drive guys jumping out of the ground from here is the unloading phase. So that's when we're getting up out of the ground a little bit from about, I think P5.5 is the lightest. And then the arms and the wrists are slowing down. The wrists are slowing down from P5.
Okay.
Which sounds
is there a, like, do the best golfers have a number there? Like how much weight is going to the ground? Because it'd be higher than their body weight essentially if it's.
I don't. I'd have to check my 3D graphs to give you a good number. I haven't seen a pattern. I don't typically measure. Oh, I've got it probably just here. One of my pros the other day. Yeah, it's a percentage that we use a percentage of the load at P5.5. So how much of a percentage of your body weight have you loaded back into the ground? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not, it's above 100%, like how much you're pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
driving into the ground essentially at that point.
And then you're trying to get back up and out.
Yeah.
So then at P7, you're actually quite light on the lead leg.
Yeah, which is where you'll see some of the golfers with their feet in the air or heels way up in the air.
Yeah, so for the golfer listening to this, when I meant P7, that impact position, we'll start. I like to even just call the backswing, Sean, a loading phase and the downswing an unloading phase, right? Very simply, right? You know, some certain areas it's still a bit of loading, but at impact, you know, a lot of recreational golfers think that they see these positions of these great golfers who have got a bit of shaft lean, a bit of the right wrist bent back, a little bit of extension of the wrist, and they think that all these professional golfers are really holding on to those ankles. I can tell you right now, they're completely unloading into that phase. So they're pushing out of their left leg, you know, quite out of there. They're bending in their right side and they're unloading their right arm really, really quickly. It just doesn't look like it because they've been able to load the club really, really well.
Yeah. Cool.
So they're getting quite light through impact. So it's all quite fast. Like, to put it in one perspective before you move on to the next subject area, is that P5 coming down into the downswing, right? Average golfer, I think, is about, their hands are traveling at 23 mile an hour, I think it is. And at impact, they're traveling at about 8 mile an hour. So your hands are actually slowing down to whip the club up.
Yeah.
And those numbers, I'm kind of being a bit vague there, a bit paraphrased. I have to just check, but that's kind of what's happening, is your hands are slowing down to speed the club up. Where a lot of golfers push the handle through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That. I knew that your hands would slow down, obviously because of the kinematic sequence. Like we're essentially loading and unloading. So we're loading the body on the way back and then unloading on the way down. But that's pushing the energy through the club, right? So we're obviously trying to deliver the most speed with the club, not with our hands at impact. And if we kept moving our hands fast, it would take away from that. Well, something has to stop in order to rotate around.
Yeah, well, think about cracking a whip, right? If you're trying to crack that whip, and this is why, you know, do a lot of wrist training, wrist work. And this is, to me, is that when in my mechanics, my preferences, what I teach, Sean, is that why I prefer a certain type of grip type that I like to coach within, because to load that club on the way down and unload it, there's a lot of force going through the wrist, right? A lot. That's why we see a lot of wrist injuries. So it's, you know, to be able to deliver that club at those fast speeds, you got to have a good handle on the grip.
Yeah, 100%. Cool, man. All right, I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole in that one.
That's okay. I can talk. I could talk to people about trail arm mechanics in the golf swing for fucking 5 hours. But what you'll find is, like, you know, that's where my passion does lie, is helping move people in that way, right? That's what I'm quite good at. But that's why I make sure that when I make those changes, before I make those changes, is that we need to make those changes. You know what I mean, Sean? So we check it all. We don't just make it for the sake of it.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. The next thing I wanted to get a little into is course management, and just where that comes into play in your coaching. And why don't we start with one of the biggest sort of debated topics probably in the golfing world is do you agree with drive for show, putt for dough?
No.
Is that a
no? Sorry. I don't like that terminology a lot. It's a good term, like it's a good throwaway term, right? But I'm very big on just how people play their best golf.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like if Rory McIlroy had Brian Harman's driving statistics, you would know who he is. You know what I mean? And if Brian Harman had Rory McIlroy's wedge statistics, you would know who Brian Harman is. So, but in regards to, I think there's a little bit too much craze, Sean, in driving distance. And I know you're in the fitness and the helping and driving distance guy, but I like to even use the terminology a little bit more with fitness is more about creating stability. And I think there's very much a big space for fitness people within golf. Like, I 100% agree. I use them every day, right? But to me, I think people should start looking at the fitness side in the golf as more as longevity in the sport, helping them with their kind of cardiovascular side on the golf course, helping them find weaknesses to why they can't do certain things within the golf swing that might, for instance, reach my parameters. But I think before we start chasing speed, I think it's very important that your body can withstand and hold and move in a certain manner within accordance, and then we start loading that speed up, Sean. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like when someone comes to me and says, or if I was in the gym and someone said, oh man, I'd love to be able to bench 100 kilos. Okay, great. Well, let's not just start on 100, let's actually look at your form. Let's look at your technique, and then let's let the body learn on how to load up until 100 kilos. So to me, I view speed as that last little thing to add to the piece to the puzzle in a nice way. Yes, that's what I do. That's how I view it. So, but I'm very big on, for instance, for me, I think greens and regulation is a very big barometer on how to track how someone's playing.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say for me, knowing I'm playing well is, 12 greens, 13 greens. I'll probably go close to, or if not even shooting under par if I get that consistently.
Yeah.
If I hit 9, it's going to be a struggle. I'm probably going to end up, somewhere in the mid 70s. If I hit 6, I'm probably going to shoot 80 and not have a good day. But that's just my stats. But obviously,
and then you got to work out. You got to work out, Sean. Like that's where you start, right? So that 12 to 13 is your secret ingredient. And then Sean goes, "Why did 12 to 13 greens not happen today?" So it might be something as simple as like, I lost a few drives or whatever, or I missed a few little short-sided pins. And then from there, that really helps you kind of work out the answer to why you didn't hit your 12 to 13 greens. But to me, I reckon the recreational golfer runs into more trouble when their strike issue is giving them issues. So their ability to control the length of the shot. I think that if you still slice and fade and draw the ball, but still get nice contact and it's within the vicinity of the green, I think you'll still have a good day for the recreational golfer.
Yeah. So you're saying distance control is what you're saying there. Yeah. No matter what shot pattern it is, as long as you hit it, you get a good smash factor essentially on the back end of that.
Yeah.
And you're getting it to within, a couple of meters forward, a couple of meters back, or to the right or left of the green. You're going to be in pretty good shape.
I would think so for the most of the recreational golfers out there. Yeah, that's the way, and then kind of work from there on trying to lessen the curvature as much as possible. So putting an emphasis on strike, but in regards to course management, you got to learn to play within your own, work out how Sean best plays golf, and you'll know that if 12 to 13 greens is your score, right? When you get to a certain driving hole at your golf course and you're like, man, I just struggle off this tee, and you go, well, hang on, I know that if I can just get 4 iron off this tee here and get, a mid iron into a green, then that's going to help my greens and regulation statistic. I'm not going to just bang driver for the sake of it and then hurt that because it doesn't work within my ingredients. So my goal is to get to that 12 to 13 greens as quick as possible. And then from there, I can kind of unleash a little bit. But when you work with golfers, on course management, it's that you've really got to work out how you play the hole. And I know I keep banging on about that, but, I remember being at a tour event up at Northern Territory, and I was with a couple of players, and I was talking to them, and one of them goes on one tee box, I hate this tee shot, it just doesn't suit my eye. And the other guy goes, I really like this tee shot. It suits my eye quite well. A few holes later, fair enough, we get to that's a different tee box, and it was the other way around. You know what I mean? So it was, I really like this tee shot. This one really suits my eyes. This is a birdie hole this week. And someone was like, oh man, I hate this. Get me down there somewhere. So it's about just kind of managing it that way there for sure. But if you look at I reckon whenever someone plays well, if they break a 90 for the first time, break an 80 for the first time, it's because they haven't lost a golf ball. It's not because they made 6 birdies. It's because they didn't lose a golf ball. and that's it.
Yeah.
Don't you reckon?
I would tend to agree with that. And I think the reason why is they're a firm belief that I have as a non golf coach, but just as someone who can at times play to scratch, but play to a handicap of a few.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my emphasis when I stand up to a tee on a par four or par five is I want to progress this ball as far as possible so I can be like have as short a proximity to the hole with my next shot as possible, but keeping it out of not going out of bounds and keeping it out of water and being in play, like having a clear shot to the green is a
Yeah.
good shot for me, whether it's in the fairway or the rough, even if it's slightly in the trees. But I know that hitting it that way is going to give me a clearer shot and open up the green.
Mm.
That to me is a success
Yeah.
rather than fairways or hitting it in the dead center of the fairway or something like that. But that's something I sort of picked up from Scott Fawcett a long time ago, and his decade system essentially does that. Is like, how do you progress it as far as possible so that you have the shortest shot into the green? Because we know that the shorter the iron you have, the closer proximity most people will have with their next shot, which means a shorter putt and less putts and all that sort of thing. So
Yes,
we're avoiding trouble is the main thing.
I agree. I agree with that to a degree, but what people also need to understand as well is that guys in the PGA Tour, they they're not hitting it 100% of the tee box. We know they're not. They're not hitting it 100% of the tee box. We know they're not. And they're hitting a long way down there. So they've done the speed training so they can back up to like 85, 90% when they're playing. So they're not exactly trying to hit it. Like it may look like it's going a long way, but they're not trying to hit it as hard as what you may think. So they're not losing their balance. They're not jumping around. They're not, like they're staying within their I guess their swing parameters of what they want to do to play good golf. But it's getting down there through a lot of speed training prior, and then from there they're working back. They're backing up a little bit. But yeah, to me, what you'll also find though, Sean, if you look at statistics, right, 100 yards from the rough is the same as someone playing 150 yards from the fairway.
Yeah, that's for a tour player, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Obviously, their rough is a little different to ours.
a little bit, but yeah, I agree. Depends where it is, but
Yeah.
I don't think the recreational golfer has. Like, I think many recreational golfers now are probably swinging out of their feet now. But they actually just need the training, with someone who can help them gain speed, like you through some fitness training to incorporate that into their pre-training and then bring it out on the golf course. Like what you're saying there is hitting as hard as you can. For someone listening to this, don't just go to the first tee tomorrow and fucking try and smash it out of your feet. Like
Yeah.
that's
So
not going to work.
I wasn't saying
Yeah.
I don't know if I said it incorrectly there, but I wasn't saying you need to swing as hard as you can. I
Yeah.
said you need within your whatever your means is to progress the ball as close to the hole as you can with
Yeah.
whatever club that is. So
Yeah.
that can be a 3-wood, a 3-iron, a 4-iron, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it needs to be as close to the hole as you can get it
Mm.
by keeping those out of bounds and everything out of play. As an example, at my course at Concord, the
Yeah.
first
No, well.
hole,
Yeah. No, well.
yeah, so it's a par four that's
Yeah.
about two, yeah,
Oh,
slight little fade into it.
yeah. Yeah.
It's the downhill par four. The
Hmm.
10th is the one that you're talking about, the downhill dogleg, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So on the first, everyone stands up there with driver and tries to drive the green. But if you just get up there with a 3 or a 4-iron, that's where the fairway is the widest. I just get clearance over the bunkers that are there, so it's the widest and the deepest spot for me to aim for with a 3 or a 4-iron, and then it gives me, depending on what side of the fairway I aim for, it gives me the most open shot to the green to whatever pin position it is. Whereas if I hit driver, it's going to land either in the greenside bunkers or just short of it, and
Mm.
probably just trickle in and be on a downslope to a downslope green that's extremely fast. And I'm hitting my second, and that's probably not going to make the green. So what percentage do I have of hitting a better second shot in is by progressing it down with a 3 or a 4-iron and not being over the green.
Yeah. I
But
love it.
then, but then the third hole, is if I hit a 3 or a 4 iron off the tee, it's where the narrowest part of the fairway is for me. Whereas if I hit a driver, it clears a little creek on the right and it opens up to like 80 meters wide. So I can aim at the trees on the left and just swing as hard as I can. And I know that if I hit it straight, it might just bounce off the trees into the fairway because it's a nice little sort of wall there.
Yeah.
Or if I fade it a little bit, it's going to be perfect in the fairway. And the fairway will even feed it around to the right and make it spot on. But I need that distance to clear the water. If I didn't hit the driver and I hit a 3-wood or a 3 iron, I might just make it, or if I make poor contact, it won't get over and I'll be in the water. So driver's actually taking trouble out of play for me on that hole. So that's where it comes in. Yeah.
It certainly can. It certainly can, especially like, for a good golf lesson this when you're playing a midweek competition at your golf course, I got the tees up. You'll find that, the same thing, like just getting driver that little bit harder over those kind of fairway traps that are in the way. But it's such a great point you make around the the first there, right, at your golf course. Well, I like to quantify things as well, right? So I like data around things, obviously, and I would encourage a recreational golfer listening to this, if you've got a struggle with a couple of holes, is dead set, play it 10 times in a row one way and 10 times around the other way, and just check it how you scored. Like, they'll give you enough. Or just look at the statistics around your greens in regulation on those 10 ones. So if it's a par 4, play it a certain way and look at it this way and then kind of measure it to which is the best way. So the stats and data app that I use, Draw More Circles, it gets crazy to the point when you're on the premium side of it, right? I have no affiliation with this mob. I just think it's bananas. It's that what it actually does for you, Sean, is that if you keep importing all your data into it, right? So every round you have, your shots that you hit, if you say, I'm going to go play Augusta tomorrow, it gives you a full 18-page detailed report, and it tells you how to play the golf course. And it says, if Sean takes his driver's sling off 10 that goes around the left, or hits 3-wood off this, say if Sean hits driver, he'll average 3.96 on this hole. If Sean hits 3-wood, you potentially will average 3.84, but you could make 4.2. Like, it tells you how to play the game of golf, essentially how to play the golf course. And
that's
so for
crazy.
you, when you've played that course, right? So I got tour players on it, so it just does a report on how to play the course. And then they talk to their caddy, and they'll get to a certain hole and go, or ask me, Toby, do you think I should take driver on this hole if the wind's here or not? That's kind of and what that does is it takes decision fatigue out. So when you're playing Concord, your home course, you're getting to each tee box and you're just talking to your mates and just, how's your weekend? How are your kids? And you're getting your club out because the decision fatigue's gone. You know how to play each hole, right? And then that's what I like to do, when we use these data things, like sport, not Sportsbox, that's a 3D motion. But if you use a Draw More Circles, or if you use a greens and yardage booklet, is that you come up with these decisions before you've played. So you already know what you're going to do on each tee box, so then you can optimize your performance.
Yep.
So when you get to the first tee at Concord, you've already thought in the putting green about your 4-iron, right?
Yep.
And so you're already in there. So you get to the first tee, and how good do you feel? You got that 4-iron, and like you've just said, there's no doubt. Oh, I might hit driver. I might hit 4-iron. It's 4-iron. And I love that. And it gives me such an opportunity to optimize my performance.
Yeah, 100%. It's just going in with a little bit of thought, because then obviously if we're thinking about making improvements, we need 3 things. We need a clear stretch goal, or to have a goal in mind. We need immediate informative feedback, so whether we did the thing or we didn't, and then we need repetition of that thing. So we need to do it a few times to see if the same thing comes up. So that's called deliberate practice. That's how everyone gets better at music, golf swings, everything. If we don't have those 3 things, then we don't have improvement, essentially.
And if you're umming and ahhing over a shot all the time, most recreational golfers are playing that same course, right? It's very difficult to fully commit because they finish and they go, oh, I should have hit driver, or I should have hit 4-iron, and basically, when you get to the first tee and you hit your 4-iron, and because within your heart, you've quantified it, right? That it's the perfect club to use. And if you mishit it, it's not a decision issue. It's just an execution issue. And you know that when you get to that, what'd you say, the third or fourth hole when you bang driver, it's the right play. And if you snap hook it into the trees or snap hook it into the water, it's not because it was the wrong play. It's just because you didn't execute it good enough.
Yeah. And
And
you're going
that's
to have that. That's part of it, right?
100% it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I completely it gives you the opportunity to commit. And that's what the caddy's doing on the TV, right? The caddy is telling the player on they're getting them ready to commit to each golf shot.
Yeah, they're a
And
cheerleader too.
yeah, number one support. Don't be a caddy. It's not an easy job. But yeah, no, I definitely, in regards to course management, I love that approach, but I just love measuring it and just checking it and quantifying it, like you said.
Yeah, getting feedback on it and adjusting as needed.
Mm.
Cool. The last bit that we'll go into is we'll try and keep it down because I don't want to take up your whole day. I know
It's
you
okay.
condense your work days, so
Yeah, no,
you
that's all right.
you were talking about fitness and golf, and
Yep.
obviously you're a believer in it. But what role do you see it playing, and what role does it play in your golf and fitness and your clients?
Yeah, so for me, I don't play anymore. Like I've done that. Like I don't really play much at all, to be fair. But I play on if I go on a trip or whatever, and if I get out there, I hit a few shots with my students. So for me, fitness for me, my own personal journey is just based around quality of life, right? For me, and I've always enjoyed it. But for someone like my students, I use fitness to be able to push them into certain positions that I'd like them to do. And we run tests and stuff. So, I don't do it. Let someone else to do it. But, I might do a few tests and stuff in regards to if the person can move in a certain way. And then from there, put an exercise program together for them. But
Yep.
for most recreational golfers, you know, I got a very strong passion in health and fitness, right? I want everyone to be healthy and happy because I've been on the opposite end of the spectrum when I wasn't healthy and happy. So I'm pushing it just for their everyday life. If you're moving well and you're happy and you're content, you're going to play good golf at the same time. So when someone sends me a message who listens to my podcast and says, "Oh, I'm going to the gym now," I'm like, yes, another one, another one. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my passion lies in just helping people get healthy because I know that they'll play their best golf. And we know that external factors like marital issues or stuff at work, all these stress issues and physical issues can have an impact on your game of golf. Well, if you can get that stuff in order, you can optimize and play your best golf. But yeah, for me, fitness plays a huge role, but I definitely stay within my lane, Shawnee. So I'll use other people to try and help me, people like yourself who are experts in it.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, obviously, your play is for longevity, especially with the amount of golf that you're playing. I'm guessing a lot of your students are coming to you because they want to either improve their golf swing or they want to improve their handicap and being able to swing the club faster or being able to move into different positions is going to benefit that greatly. So programming for someone to increase speed versus programming for someone's longevity they're two different things because we need to attack the body with two different types of stimulus in order to get two different types of adaptation. But just like you were saying before with practice, if you've got long game, short game, putting, driving, chipping, all these different things, as long as we're hitting all of those things within a week and we're doing a little bit of speed, a little bit of this, a little bit of longevity, a little bit of strength, and we're doing that all across the days in however the mix works for somebody, then long-term longevity is where we're finding a really good balance of all that stuff. But it requires that special ingredient of consistency, which a lot of people struggle with.
I'll tell you what's pretty scary, Sean, is that I saw something the other day that in 10 years' time, 50% of the world will be obese.
Yeah,
That's
doesn't surprise me.
It's crazy, right? But so for you, what's it like when you get an athlete who has been in the gym for a while versus someone who hasn't been to the gym? Is it? I guess the person who's been going to the gym, you don't have to talk to them about creating behaviors, right? Because they've already been going quite regularly and created that habit.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, someone who's got that consistency and they're able to show up and do things, it's less of a habit forming exercise and more of a fine tuning what they're doing within those hours. But for the majority of people, it's the opposite. It's like actually getting into the gym and doing the thing.
Yeah.
Especially golfers, because they like golf's a time consuming sport, right?
Mm.
If Toby gives you a training plan and he's given you, 6 things to work on during the week, and it takes you, an hour to do each, or 30 minutes even to do each. There's 3 to 6 hours a week of that, plus one round is another 4 to 5 hours. 5 hours if
Mm.
you're playing in Sydney because it's hopeless.
Yeah.
So that's 11 hours of the week. Then you've got a 40-hour work week. Then you've got 8 hours of sleep each night, and then
Yeah.
you fit the gym in as like a little byproduct. It's like how many hours do people actually have? So it's a separate conversation in of
Yeah, but
itself,
see,
but it's
I would,
tough.
yeah, I would rather, like, for students of mine, I'd rather them, I'd say go to the gym, like prioritize that over the golf technique stuff. Get your body moving and get your body in good, get your endorphins going, get yourself feeling healthy, and then start to find space. But what I think, Shawnee, right, and I talk to people about this a lot, is, like, I enjoy going to yoga meditation classes, right? And outside of my kind of lifting weights, and my wife knows when they are. She's Tuesdays and Thursday nights, right? So if someone says, "Oh, do you guys, want to grab some dinner?" It's like, no. Toby does his meditation practices on Tuesday nights. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's what happens, because what I found was happening trying to create the behavior was, and the habit was, it kept getting pushed away. You know what I mean? Like, picking up the kids, or nights out, or State of Origin's on, or whatever's on, something you want to watch, right? So for me, I had to create, to start off with, pretty strict things within my week to make room for it, because
Mm,
our life has gotten to a situation now where it's completely full. Everyone's life right now is full, right? Everyone's. And what's important is that we have to kind of, what I like to do is every couple of months just look at my life and go, what's going on in there that I don't need right now? What can I make space for to make my life better? You know what I mean? So it might be a commitment to something that I probably am not getting enough value out of it. A, money, or B, fulfilling my needs. I'm going to change that commitment. And would that commitment be better, instead of watching Netflix on a Thursday night? Or should I be doing something in the gym to help me with my mobility? What would be better for me in the long run? So that's kind of how I help people try and create new habits, because everyone's cup right now is full as, don't you
yeah,
reckon?
yeah, 100%. And I think it's one thing that I used to run with the gyms was retreats to Bali, which we've sort
Mm,
of talked about,
yeah.
living and life in Bali and stuff. But it's one of those things where we do this exercise, a Tony Robbins exercise, and we work out, what sort of number you'd rate yourself out of a 5 or 10 in health, finances, work, relationships, and what was the other one? I already said career, environment. I think
Okay.
time where, or places where you're spending your time, and depending on where that is, obviously, if we had a 5 in all of those 5 points, or a 10 in all of those 5 points, then we'd have a circle that would go around the star. But if we're flat in one of them, like we're a 1 out of 5 and a 4 in everything else, obviously that thing is going to be the thing that slows us down. We're going to hit that flat spot every time we
I
try and
love
get
that.
on a roll in life. Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
good.
I'll run you through this. Yeah, I'll run you through this a separate time. But
That's very good. And
so if we
what?
find that,
Yeah.
then we try and obviously sacrifice a little bit from all the other things because they're doing well in order to bring that other one out, and then to be a 4 all round, because a 4 all round is better than 4 4s and a 1.
I love that.
1 for numbers wise, but also 2 just for satisfaction in life. So
Well,
yeah, it's something
if
done in
you
the past.
yeah, and if you have a 1 in there, it jeopardizes everything, because if it's health, you could be dead. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
and if it's finances, you're homeless. So
yeah.
it's kind of like, I guess I really, I really like that. I really like that a lot. Maybe I should go on one of these retreats, mate.
Well, I've sold the gym now, mate, so we can't do it anymore. We'll run a private one. Maybe I can come down to Shell Harbour and you can tell me a bit about golf, and I'll tell you a bit about that. So,
Yeah, no,
um,
I'm into it. That's really cool, man. That's really cool.
Cool. So to finish up, because we've just cracked over the hour.
Yep.
So with the last bit, I just want to ask one question, and that's
Yeah.
just sort of keep it to a little quick fire one. But what's one piece of advice you'd offer to golfers who are struggling, and this is probably a lot of people that you work with, but they're either struggling with progress in the game, with decreasing the handicap, making swing changes, but they're really struggling to sort of get it or put it all together. Like, what's a piece of advice that you'd offer to these people, or you offer to clients?
Very simple. Find out where your strengths and weaknesses are. And then from there, you've all got strengths and weaknesses. You'll find you're a good putter, you're good at something. Find out where they are, make sure your strength stays strength, and work out why your weaknesses aren't as good.
Sweet.
And then
Short
from
and
there,
simple.
well, what it does is it just takes this whole complex game out of this total score of 90 you're shooting. It gives you an answer to why it's 90. It's because, like you said, Sean's like a certain parameter within your balls, your golf is 12 greens. Okay, great. The last month I've been hitting 8 greens. It's like, well, why am I hitting 8 greens? Okay, my driver's not landing on the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, it's my driver. Great. So and then it gives you a bit of clarity, makes you feel good. It's like everything else is really good in my golf game. It's just my driver's letting me down. So you got to learn about your strengths and weaknesses. You really do.
Cool. I love it. And you must have been watching me play if you're saying that as well. All right, mate. We'll wrap it up there. Where can people go to find out more about you, to follow you, obviously on Instagram, and to work with you if they want to maybe hit you up for a lesson or some advice?
Yeah, so just get me at @TMGolf_ is my Instagram account. I have all the other ones, TikToks and Facebooks and YouTubes, all that stuff, and Threads and all that. My assistant looks after all that. She just kind of repurposes my content through my Instagram account. But if you get me through Instagram, we can connect and just ask me a question if you've got any questions about it. Always happy to help. I also offer a kind of free swing analysis as well, Shawnee, people listening, so they can just catch me. That's all through the Instagram. They can find a way on how to do that there. And if you want to get an online lesson or become an online subscriber, my coaching is a little different to some people, where I use the term coaching, not golf lessons, and I coach people to better golf. So, we generally work through, I talk to my students pretty much 4 times a week minimum, I reckon, like via text and through the app that I use called Skillest. And it's monthly subscription programs type of stuff. So it's not like just, I do this and I'll see you again later. It's kind of more programmed. So they can all get that through the Instagram account.
Okay, cool. I'll steer everyone to Instagram, and they can reach out or click through links and stuff like that.
That's nice.
Cool, mate. Thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. And after this, we'll have to organise a round down at Shell Harbour.
Yeah, man, you're close as. Let's get it done.
Yeah,
I'm easy.
All right, mate. Thank you.
All right, thanks, brother.